It's definitely that's fine. I miss it. Hey, I'd like to really nice. You have a note. Pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I'd like to welcome everybody here this year. We are attempting something new and unique for the Adtc County Council. We're having what we're calling a hybrid meeting, which means we're meeting here in person at the Women's Club building, but we're also meeting via Zoom for those that couldn't make it here. So at this point, we do have the Zoom meeting is being conducted and maintained by our community volunteer, Cindy Grimes, and she's more or less the co-host of the meeting. So she's going to man the operations there with a Zoom portion. And Mary's kind of in charge of the sound system and everything here on our end. And she's got her computer hooked up here where she can communicate with whoever wants to join either meeting. Okay, so we're going to continue on. So, so far it's worked out real well. I hope it works out to where we have good participation from the community. That's the whole purpose in this is to seek input from the members. At this point, we don't have 5th district here. So at this point, I'd like to move on to the agency reports. And it looks to me like we have Los Angeles County Fire Department representative here. So if you're taking Maria's position for one meeting, right?
I am.
Good. Okay.
I am. Great. Well, I would just thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Appreciate the hospitality tonight.
Thanks for being here. Yes.
All right, LA County Fire Department, you have the May 2023 report on the goal state in regards to fire-related activity. So through May, total fires was 1. I'll come back to that here shortly. Total EMS calls was 29. 1 service call, 1 hazardous condition call, 6 good intent calls, for a total of 38 calls, and that's about your average that you typically would have. And that's all I have for you for the safety tip of the month. That's all I have for you for the fire report for May. Is there any questions for the council?
Any questions?
Is the Sheriff's Department going to be up and ready for calls for individual fireworks going on in the neighborhood?
They will. So they've already started some of their enforcement. We will start our regular patrols as we go into the week prior to the 4th of July. Typically in this area, we will do some extra staffing for firework-related type incidents, and we'll be prepared, as we always are, for those fire-type responses and what have you. We just have a lot of dry brush out there. Although we've had some weather to kind of help us out, to kind of ease us into the season, we are there. We have, as you know, we have grass everywhere, and the grass is definitely drying. Yes. And we are well into the season now, so we will be prepared. And we always augment throughout the Santa Clarita Valley, Agua Dulce area, and up into the desert there. So we'll be prepared.
We appreciate that.
So you obviously went around and inspected a lot of homes this year.
We have.
Have you identified where the homeless encampments are in Acton and Agua Dulce so that you can go and inspect what's going on in those facilities too?
We do. So typically the engine company, great question. So typically the engine companies in the district, it's 81s for you folks here. They know where the issues and where the problems lie. As we go into the brush season, and as we do the brush inspections themselves, we do figure out where the issues are in regards to those that are experiencing homelessness and where the potential issues are as we go into the season. So they'll be well prepared for that, and they'll plan ahead for that. So that is one of our checks on our checklist as we start getting those regular wildland fires. Our concern is definitely those that are experiencing homelessness, and we tried to get ahead of it. We worked with the sheriff's department hand in hand, especially in this area here, and throughout the Santa Clarita Valley to make sure that we're prepared for that. And we tried to do the prevention ahead of time prior to us getting into those crazy months of the wildland season.
Great.
How are the inspections going? How far along are you through those, and how are the residents being notified of violations or areas of improvement?
So we are probably in this area about 90%-ish or so. Usually this time of year, we are focusing on those inspections that are a little bit more difficult. This year was a little bit different. It got pushed back a little bit because of the extended June gloom and the heavy June gloom really got into the season. And we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, right? Because we don't want to have to do double the work we don't want the residents to have to do double the work once they get the grass cut down and we get additional rains. So we got pushed back just a little bit, but typically this time of year, we're really focusing on those more extensive inspections, especially with those right up against the brush area. Those inspections that we've done is for the compliance. So the compliant inspections, those are compliant in the area. We'll be getting their compliance notices mailed out this following week here as we go into next week. So you would be getting it middle of next week. It should come out. If you're non-compliant, you would have already gotten that either in a door hanger on your front door there, or handed to you in person. We'll work with those folks that are in that position. So again, we want you to continue your enforcement, continue your preparation for the wildland season. And again, we're knocking on the door here to the wildland season now, and it will continue all the way until we get rain again. So be vigilant, be ready, continue that work on your occupancies, and we appreciate the hard work this year, especially after that heavy rain season.
Yes. Bill, one question here.
But the way you observe an encampment, we've always just turned it over to the supervisor's office. It sounds like we should be sending it to the sheriff's department and the fire department, but there's no way to email the fire department other than info. So do we turn that over to you or the sheriff's department?
So I would reach back through the council if you're okay with that. They can get you in contact with Rhea Greichen, who is our community service liaison. So you typically complaints like that, I would like to see come through our community service liaison or through the sheriff's department direct. We talk on a regular basis, and we communicate to ensure that we are taking care of the issue. They do have personnel available to come out and try to get that person some sort of assistance in what happened. Our fix for that is to get people assistance and offer them at least the assistance that they need to get out of the position that they're in. So.
Great, that's great.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much for making the trip out here. We appreciate your attendance.
Anytime we have the opportunity, I like coming to see you, so I appreciate it, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Orlando. Okay. So it looks like on the screen, although he's standing very still, is Deputy Orlando Martinez. So we're going to have
Thanks, Don.
Yes.
All right. I'm going to talk about the crime statistics, and then I'll touch bases on your concerns about the homeless encampments, because we really don't have any. We have like one possible one that you could possibly call that, but they don't even count that as an encampment. So for the month of May, the numbers are as follow. May had 0 Part 1 crimes, and we had 1 property crime as a petty theft, bringing our grand total to 18 for the year, and 3 Part 1 crimes for the year, which is a 0% change in the crime statistics for Part 1 crimes and a 5% increase for property crimes. We had 146 calls for service in the month of May, and that's it for the crime statistics. But as far as the encampment, there's only one that kind of would fit that criteria, and it's across from the motel on Cedar Highway before you get to Sleepy Valley. That's already been addressed, but they don't have any, they're not doing open fires or anything like that. They have jobs. They're basically what's it called when you RV with no hookups? Food docking or boned? Can't think of the name of what it's called right now, but they're in RVs. They have their generators internally or whatever. They don't have anything like that. And in Acton, there's 2 people that are in tents in the desert, but they come into town to use facilities and stuff. So that is the extent. The sheriff's department won't use their Hope team resources unless it's 4 or more. That's what they consider an encampment, and all those individuals have been offered services. So they just want to be out in the where they're being. The ones across their highway, though, we're in the process of contacting the property owners, trying to get them to be desirous of prosecution for trespassing. And other than that, there's not much we can do if the property owners don't want to comply with that.
Great. Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Orlando? All right. Thank you very much for the report. Hold on 1 second. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And it looks like right now we have from the California Highway Patrol, Officer
Glauser.
Officer Glauser is with us. Great. Good to see you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
For the month of May, I just wanted to talk to you guys about the Memorial Day weekend. Every holiday, we have what's called a maximum enforcement period where the entire department, California Highway Patrol, has 80% plus of our personnel working 24/7 through the entire weekend. Hopefully, if you hit the road at all during that weekend, you saw a lot of CHP officers out there. I certainly did. I just wanted to give you some stats from that weekend. In the entire state, we had 1,118 arrests for DUI, which was a 20% increase from the previous year. And we made we had from the previous year, which was 888 DUI arrests. That's the highest DUI arrest we've had during any Memorial Day weekend since 2015. And our staffing back in 2015 was a lot higher than it is today. In terms of citations issued, we issued a total of 17,000 citations throughout the state. Close to 1,000 of those were for speeds in excess of 100 miles an hour. Here locally, I talked to your officer, Alan, up here, who gave me a rundown of what happened in Agua Dulce. You had about 3 arrests in Agua Dulce, 2 for drug possession and 1 for DUI. Actually, 4 arrests, and 1 was for public intoxication. In terms of citations for the area of Agua Dulce, you had a total of 68 citations issued. And to steal the fire department's glory for a second, he also wanted me to throw in there that he put out a fire with his fire extinguisher. So I wanted to throw that in there. That's all we have. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Well, let's find out. Any questions for the California Highway Patrol? Yeah, looks like Chris has one here.
Yeah, there was some discussion on social media a couple of weeks ago about some metal posts that were going on or being installed around the on-ramps and off-ramps on 14 freeway, both in Acton and Agua Dulce, as if they're preparing some means of closing down access to the freeway. Do you know anything about what Caltrans has been doing?
I think that has something to do with snow gates. I think due to the weather, the unusual weather we had this last year, we had a lot more snow than we've had in previous years. So we had to shut the 14 freeway down a couple times. That's what I believe it is. I haven't been fully briefed on it. I can get back to you guys on that, but I'm pretty sure it's snow gates to shut down certain on ramps and off ramps to gain access to the 14 when there's a full freeway closure for snow. That'll be extremely rare, a lot less than what we have over on the 5. But I do know a couple of times this last winter we had to shut the 14 freeway down because we were getting snow that was sticking a couple inches on the actual main thoroughfare through there. So that's what I'm assuming it is.
Thank you.
Great. Okay. Any more questions? Okay. Very good. Thank you for the report. Look forward to hearing from you next month.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, at this point, we also have, I see Jim Wall up there, active on the Old Library report from my librarian, Jim Wall. Jim?
Good evening. Hope all you guys are doing well tonight.
Yes.
Good. So first thing I'm going to let you guys know about is we just started up our summer reading program. That started June 1st. So anybody can sign up online or come on in and we can sign you up with a paper game. You get prizes for reading books, and at the end of the summer, there's raffles provided by the LA County Library Foundation. Grand prizes, I believe, are Kindles this year, so sign up. It'll be fun. As usual, we always have a bunch of programs going on. You can find those all on our website, lacountylibrary.org. Just click the events button. Just to highlight a few, we'll be making stomp rockets in a couple weeks. That's on June 29th at 3:30. So the kids can come on, they'll make a rocket out of paper tube and launch it with a soda bottle and some PVC pipe that I have to build. We tested one. They go really high and they're going to have a lot of fun. And then I'm just going to also mention we've got an anime drawing class coming up. That's going to be Thursday, July 13th at 3:30. Someone coming in to do that for us. Last thing I'll mention is just a couple holiday closures. We'll be closed Monday, June 19th for Juneteenth. And then we'll also be closed Tuesday, July 4th for Independence Day.
Okay.
Other than that, unless anyone has questions for me, that's what I have.
Well, let's find out. Anybody have questions for Jim? I don't see any hands up on the screen. I don't see any hands up here. But I think we're all good. Thank
Well,
you.
if something comes up, you guys know how to reach me.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, at this time, I think we would like to have the 5th District report from Stephanie English. Stephanie?
Hi.
Hi.
Wow, I feel like I haven't seen you all for 5 years. Really. It feels like, I guess because we're here officially, we were here at the opening, but it's really cool to be in our beautiful, I say ours because I'm so connected to your community. I call it like my new women's club house. And this is the equipment, right?
Yes. This is what
Supervisor Barker paid for the equipment, so you all could be virtual.
Yeah. It's working so far.
Okay, good evening. Couple updates from me. At the last board meeting, well, I'm sure you all are aware of the governor's orders to expedite battery storage and energy solutions. He's trying to move that forward for his roadmap for achieving 100% clean energy by 2045. So he's expedited some policies that will allow for these battery storage facilities to be built. I know you're aware of what's going on in Acton. Of course, there's proposed locations in Agua Dulce and Canyon Country as well. His policy somewhat bypasses the local jurisdictions and counties in California. And as you're well aware, I think the Acton Town Council and/or the community are not too thrilled with the location of that facility and concerned about fire hazards. And so the supervisor authored a motion last week to investigate, what facilities are approved now in the county, what is on the horizon for approval, what were some of the other directives, and a review of other jurisdictions that are managing the same kind of tension between the state and local counties. So it doesn't really, a lot of the governor's efforts, which have been a few related to green energy, don't really take local communities or the local counties into consideration. So we're examining all of that to see what's available in Title 22, and what our opportunities are to advocate for the proper placement of those facilities. So stay tuned. That's a 45-day report back. So we're almost mid-June. So the end of July sometime, we should get some more information, which will help kind of leverage what action, if any, hopefully there is some we can take in the county to kind of mitigate and be a little more purposeful about planning where those green energy locations are placed. So that's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. I love that the governor has is kind of one of the first politicians to come out and say, we need a healthcare court that will be able to facilitate getting people the help that they need. Because right now, if your brother's schizophrenic living on the street, you have no legal right to require that he get help. Now, what's interesting about that, and I'm sure y'all know this, and I'm sure I've said this here many times, is that if you have a loved one that has Alzheimer's or dementia, you know, an elder parent or something like that, and they go missing, they're living with you, the law enforcement can go out, pick them up, and bring them back to your house. Mm-hmm. So it's like this language soup with what mental illnesses we can help people with, because those folks on the streets that are almost all of them are drug addicted, along with whatever health issue they're dealing with, they can't help themselves. So I give a lot of credit to the governor for starting the conversation. It has no real muscle behind it, except that it is requiring the counties, and I'll look at my notes for this. It was signed in 2022, providing treatment opportunities for individuals suffering from severe mental health. It was SB 1338, will place the care court process in all counties across California. And it must be enacted by December 2023 in the counties. So the motion prompts the first few steps to prepare for the implementation of care court. The following are some of the directives. Work with the CEO to identify, this is Supervisor Barger's motion, to examine more fully the care court process. Work with the CEO to identify potential properties and facilities to support the care court process. Work with the Department of Public Health to develop necessary processes to ensure alignment with the housing resources, advocate for mental health services oversight and accountability. And the CEO will report back in 90 days. So as I understand it, when you go before the care court, they can't force you into treatment. You can deny the treatment. So we're still in that juxtaposition of not really being able to help people off the streets and help our communities preserve their community sense and well-being. So that's I watch and see on that one. The board, if you were listening at all, also passed a motion by Supervisor Horvath in the 3rd District to allow for people who are incarcerated to vote. The supervisor was, as usual, the lone vote against that effort. And if you know anything about Supervisor Barger, she's so balanced. She absolutely believes in justice reform. She absolutely believes in second, third, fourth chances. She absolutely believes that we can accomplish both. We can enforce public safety, we can support our law enforcement, and we can help people who want to be helped, who are motivated to be helped, to reintegrate into society. We can do both of those things. They're not juxtaposed. But when you are incarcerated and you lost your civil liberties as a non-productive, non-law-abiding citizen, that's quite a privilege to be able to vote. So she was a lone vote on that item. And I left my notes in the car, and I know you're going to ask me about, let me see if I can read my phone without my readers, about the GE trucking.
Yeah.
Chris is like, I was waiting for that. And about Sleepy Valley. So, we have quite a team. I'll start with the Sleepy Valley. On the Sleepy Valley issue, it's one resident, for those who might not know, that has a septic system that's not working and arguably causing some contamination. We've had our DA investigators that went out and met with this resident, and of course our public health teams and our regional planning and public works teams has taken a lot of effort, but she has hired hang on, let me get my notes here. She's hired a contractor to replace and repair the existing OWTS.
Septic.
But what's OW? We looked at septic. Oh, thank you. The septic, okay, and would be, and we're waiting for the contractor to submit plans to the county. So we're making progress on that issue. That was a tough one because we could press charges, but someone who doesn't really have the resources, it's not going to affect any solutions to press charges on somebody who, you know, is struggling potentially to make these corrections. But we're making progress because they've gone up to meet with her and sat down with her and in a very supportive fashion asked, you know, what can we do? How can we help? What can you do? What can't you do? So I think this is really, really good news. And then oh wait, I think we have someone, Yosh is here from the county to talk about GE trucking. So Yosh, I'll let you talk about that in a second. And I think that's all my issues. And I know I have another special presentation, but I don't know when you want to do that or.
I would say right now.
Right now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
We were going to do it, but the meeting got started.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. I was en route. I apologize. I was en route.
I just asked you one.
You bet. Yeah. It's
So
going to be a
Gary-
tough question. Please.
No. Gary is here from the Acton Agricultural Amateur Radio Club. And they've got an event coming up on June 24th where they're using the bandstand in Acton Park.
They use what? I didn't hear you.
The bandstand in
Okay.
Acton Park. And they set up like,
Bandstand?
Yeah, this covered area.
Oh, pavilion.
yeah, the pavilion.
This is stage.
Yes.
Stage. Okay.
Okay.
Did you end up having to go down to downtown LA to actually meet with the people so they would allow you to use the pavilion at the park, Gary?
You mean Department of Recs?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically I did everything on email and I had to have a face-to-face meeting. We had a virtual meeting.
Okay.
So process was pretty agonizing. Yeah, it was long and drawn out. For a county park where it should be encouraging people to use the facilities, it took me about 4-5 weeks to get this thing set up. So I talked to you year before last, remember doing this, and you helped get that thing through a little bit faster. This year it was like speed of light.
Well, I'll tell you, 4 or 5 weeks is not that bad. I hate to say it because, you know, in fact, I was dealing with an issue today. A major solar project is going to be the biggest solar project in California for commercial property. And, you know, everyone is so understaffed and overworked that 4 or 5 weeks is not bad. But having said that, please let me know. It's not about me expediting, because if I expedite you, then I could potentially expedite somebody over you. So, you know, we try to play fair, but it's about making sure you're not being delayed and you're not being put off, you know, unnecessarily. So whenever you have a project or an issue, I know I've helped Don with some things, please don't hesitate to call our office. We're happy to assist, but it sounds like you got there finally.
Thank you.
Well, this is should be better.
But to always call. It's such a hassle. I know the county is so big and almost all of our departments are understaffed and overworked. So it's tough for the rank, you know, the people that you're meeting with. They're just slammed.
I always appreciate it.
Anytime.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's continue on with the celebration.
Okay. Well, sorry, I was late for that initial.
Good.
So I know we have 3 of our past council members. They will come up.
Okay.
And
We have
we're-
one present in the flesh. We have one I notice is on.
Zoom.
on Zoom. He's 2-dimensional. All right.
Are you?
Okay.
You know, let me say this. Well, first of all, we have the most gorgeous scrolls. I love these scrolls. But, you know, there's a lot of people, I know you all do in this community, understand the town councils. A lot of people don't understand the town councils. It's a really unique body of individuals, as you know, that contribute their time. Chris, you should try to contribute more time though. Yeah.
Jump on my side and
He was looking at me like, I'm gonna choke you. You know, contribute your time free of charge for the betterment of your community. And even though technically speaking, it's not a body that legal authority or can override a county policy or ordinance or override a supervisor. Let me tell you something, as you guys full well know, the supervisor listens loud and clear. And we just had a recent meeting and we've been working on an issue, as you all know. And you are very influential and very important to her because a lot of times people will call her office and say, I'm so mad about this. And I go, well, we didn't know. How do we know? We don't drive around every ounce of every community every day to look at what's wrong or look at what's going, a dumping issue or a homeless issue or an LMD issue. We don't know unless you tell us. So I know from the supervisor's perspective that to have, and you were on for how long?
7 years.
Oh, you could have done one more? He bailed when they got rid of us. Okay. It's extremely valuable to the supervisor to hear from you. And you guys know, she listens. It doesn't mean that issues aren't complex and don't take time to resolve and work out, but it's a very important work, and I just applaud you all for doing it, and we really do appreciate it. So I guess Ed, you're my person today.
Right. Let's see.
And then we'll give the other ones we'll hand them on to you.
Yeah, Lou's here, and talks to.
Yeah, Lou is here.
Lou, scroll.
So Lou, we see you. Do you see us?
Thank you.
He said, thank you. That's fine.
Pass it along to you.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for this. And I remember back when you were the fire departments, it was really awesome when you went over to, supervisor Morgan's office and Michael Antonovich before her, just two of the people I just absolutely look up to. And Don, Don's been a great mentor to me through some difficult times, and he's like a father figure to me in many ways. The best advice of my life has come from Don, seriously. And just, nice to see you, Kenny.
Good to see you, Ed.
Mary, just incredible. The true pleasure to be associated in the process of magnifying the voice of the community and preserving our lifestyle. And I saw here, just as input to you, a council that was truly focused on the community. And, we always adhere to the grounding. And, Mary would be honest, if there was any potential of appearance dividing it. And just my voice, as well as the voice of my fellow council members, were always included. And, I think it's a great setup the way it is with the county. Just like what Gary was doing right now, asking you to help a little bit. In this case, you're just telling me that the process, it sounds like it's okay. But in case of that, we had just huge difficult situation in the county. You guys always listen to us and solve the issue. So we have a very special community here. I've been away for a little while. I've lived in Highland Park, in LA, Burbank, and Northridge for the last 3 years. So COVID came, we stopped meeting, and I just want to tell you guys, the community is just incredible. Like, if money was no issue whatsoever, I would have lived here, and, I'm going to make sure I get back here soon, by about August, and it's just an incredible community. I wouldn't live anywhere else. I could live anywhere. So, just thank you so much. Please thank the supervisor for being here.
Thank you.
Well, let me say, I've told Mary, I think I've told Dawn, but I know I've told Mary several times that my time with fire department over those years and now with the supervisor's office, I have just absolutely fallen in love with this community. And that's what you guys love about it. People don't know about you, right? I mean, it's quiet. So this is, as Ed said, it's a beautiful community, and I really applaud your effort to keep it that way. We support you.
Thank you. All right. Oh, okay, all right. And I think now we have Yash on the screen that's going to go over. Is it time to turn on the lunch? Okay, yes, I think so. All right, Yash, you're on.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I'm Yosh Morsaku with Building Safety, Property Rehab Code Enforcement. Unfortunately, Josie wasn't able to make it today. She had another engagement. She didn't tell me what it was, but I'm assuming it's something probably related to the high school graduations and all the graduations that are occurring these days. So she took the day off, and I am in here representing Public Works. So the GV trucking, I had a chance to reach out to County Council and kind of discuss where they are with that property. And hang on one second, let me pull up my notes. They actually do not have a specific court update, meaning that there's no actions in the court yet. However, what she can tell me is that the defendants retained an attorney, and they are due in court on July 7th. So what she assumes is happening is the defense attorney is getting caught up to speed on the various cases that are placed against the defendants. Again, that's fire, Department of Regional Planning, as well as building safety for all the various violations on the property. So in July 7th, I think it'll be the first time they'll be in court. The attorney will be in court, and our county council will be there as well. She has told the defense attorney that she does have the intent to file a motion for preliminary injunction, but she's going to see what the defense attorney has to say. DRP, Department of Regional Planning, as well as Public Works, we've conducted inspections. No movement on the property. Nothing's have been submitted into us for applications or anything like that. So that's the update I have for the GV trucking.
Great. Okay, thank you very much for that. Any questions from the council?
Yosh, are the tanks still closed down?
Yes. From what I understand, the tanks are still closed down.
So we have to wait till July 7th for the court to start, and look forward to working with you on the future.
Yes, and we're definitely on it still. All the departments are on it. We're waiting for county council to see what the next actions will be.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for the report. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Next up, we have California 34th District. Tom Lackey. Carlo, are you with us here tonight? I see a little hand up by Angela. Is that a real hand, or is that? It's just a little hand. Mike Garcia? Jackie here? Okay. There must all be a graduation. Okay, next up we have, Santa Clara River Watershed Area Steering Committee, Measure W Watershed Coordinator Peter Massey. I saw Peter here. Peter's here. Great. Peter, you're up.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. Good to see everybody. And this hybrid thing is working pretty well. Thank you all. A few things that are already listed on the agenda there. There's not a watershed steering committee this month. It'll be held next month, July 20th, 1 to 3 p.m., Santa Clarita City Hall. And I do notice agenda here. Mary, it looks like you are looking for an alternate to serve on the committee. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you want to say anything more about that?
Just looking for somebody to serve as my alternate if I can't make the meeting. I've been able to make all the meetings up to now, and I anticipate that going forward, but it's kind of good to have an alternate. So if anybody is interested, shoot me an email.
Great. Okay.
Mary, did that person need to be on the council? Or
I'm sorry?
would that person need to be on the town council?
No, it doesn't.
Is that best
I don't
practice?
think so. I don't think it has to be on the council.
Okay. Just a breathing person.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And I'll tell you, we've got a few education events coming up. Next Thursday, June 22nd, 6:30 to 8, we have an online webinar called Climate Change, Impacts and Opportunities for Open Space Watershed Health. This is going to be the final community education event from the Water Talks program. We've been promoting it. We've got some folks already signed up, about nine or 10 people so far. We'd love to have more join us. And we'll be continuing to promote that out. I'll try to drop the link in the chat as well, if that's of any help. And then I want to just put out a save the date, which is July 19th and 20th, 6 to 8 p.m. Both evenings. We're going to host an online version of the workshops that we held last month on private well maintenance and septic system maintenance. They were really well attended back in May. It was a Saturday, but we wanted to offer it online for folks who couldn't make that. And then we'll record those online sessions so they'll be available as well. And we should have links sent out to register by the end of the month. And then let's see, I think that's, I guess the other note is that at that July meeting for the Watershed Area Steering Committee, there will be a review of the Strategic Outreach and Engagement Plan for approval. It is currently posted on the website and can be reviewed and comments sent my way if you have anything. And I can drop that link in the chat as well. I think that about does it. Thanks, everybody.
Great, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. Okay, next up we have presentations. First off,
Public Works Deputy, and Art Vanderbiz, who is the Assistant Deputy for Land Use within the Public Works, who also lives in Acton. And it's about an hour long. The essence of the meeting was really for the county to try and understand what the community's concerns are, and then figure out a way to address those concerns. And I think that if I go through a few things that we talk, I mean, I can put these in the formal presentation next month, but the first thing that we discussed was really why certain aspects of these approved planning documents appear to be being disregarded, particularly the pursuit of the first phase of the septic systems. And Mr. Vanderbiz explained that from the county's perspective, once that map gets recorded, everything that was approved in the planning process for that map is set in stone, according to the State Subdivision Map Act. I have yet to go and read the State Subdivision Map Act, but that seems to be kind of halfway there. It seems unlikely that you would record a map, cast everything in stone, and then not give the developer the right to go back and fix stuff that becomes apparent during the process of developing a large subdivision project. Otherwise, you could have half the project built and half the project not built for whatever reason becomes apparent. So it does seem that the State Subdivision Map Act would allow the developer, under certain circumstances, to go back and change a map. And I'll go and take a look at that. But what we basically said was, look, the community's got one position, which is that shouldn't be happening. The county's got another position, which is it should be happening. And there are steps afoot within the groups within the community to go and figure out how to resolve that. And it may well end up in a court, and it'll be a judge who decides what the reality is of that situation. So we agreed to disagree on that particular topic. Prior to that meeting in May, we received a reply in April, we received a reply to some questions we'd asked earlier this year from the county, and I made a point in our May council meeting that really a lot of the issues that we have are not what the county says in the letters, but what the county needs unwritten, and how we have to then pass our way through the answers to figure out what they really mean. So what I'd done after we received our reply from the county last month was I'd sent some public records requests in, really to get the county to substantiate the rationale behind the statements that they've made in the letter. And the public records information that I received was a little bit concerning. If you remember, we talked about the project in July last year, and several representatives of the county were in the meeting. The council then wrote a letter to the county in August, and we received a reply in October. And it was about things like the bonds and the fact that some of the companies that had originally held the bonds no longer existed. And we were told that those bonds did exist. Well, the public records information that was released was a little bit, enlightening. So when it comes to those bonds from 2002, what you see in that dialogue in response to the community the questions that we posed as a council back in August last year, you see this dialogue going along between various staff in the county. And one of the issues that they were dealing with was the renewal of the unrecorded map. So there's you go back every 12 months, pay a few $100s to renew that map. We could see that it had been renewed in June of 2021, but there was no corresponding renewal letter. It turns out that the developer had actually paid the renewal through Epic LA, which is an online payment processing system for regional planning. But when the county staff realized that that had happened, one of the first things that somebody within the county did was, and this is in September 2022, said, well, shouldn't we just go create a letter and backdate it to June of 2021? Which I thought was a little concerning because that was kind of the first approach that was suggested. Now, thankfully, somebody stepped in and said, that's not a good idea. But the fact that they even went there was, I think, a bit alarming. Further on in the discussion about the validity of those bonds, so the county had reached out to Travelers Insurance through their sort of online, Travelers Online communication system and got clarification on the bonds. There's some correspondence within the county about those bonds. The Travellers basically said, look, those bonds are valid until you withdraw them. But then there's this internal dialogue going on within the county saying, well, did they, Travellers, confirm the original developer hasn't been paying the premiums? So it wasn't just a case of, oh, thanks, the bonds are still valid. There's this dialogue within the county about some notion that the original developer not paying the premiums. So there's evidently some knowledge there that hasn't been shared with us. And I haven't changed my view on whether those bonds are still valid. The other issue that we became aware of, which was revealed, is that in July of last year, the county granted a grading permit to start the first phase of grading of the project. And we've obviously seen some of that going on. The public records information that was released showed that they had used a worksheet. So when the county decides what the figure is that is going to need to go into bond, there's a worksheet and it says here's how many cubic yards, inspection fees, and it all pops out a number at the end of it. Sometime around about March or April of last year, several months before this thing was finalised, the county realised that they'd actually used a worksheet in building and safety from 2012-2013. So that number of $2.7 million, bless you, was a 10-year-old number. They realised that they'd done this and that the number should actually have been $2.6 million based on the 2021-22 worksheet. So even though that realisation occurred before this thing was finalised, the grading bond approval then dropped out of building safety into land use within public works. And this is under our banders. They decided, we'll give them a $323,000 discount. Now, the point that we made in the meeting was, hey, this is a multi-million-dollar development. Why don't we just say, hey, you know what, we're the county, that's the price, pay it or you don't get your permit, which is what a lot of us face if we were doing things today and the circumstances behind the permit changed for whatever project we're doing. But the developer just got a $330,000 discount straight out the gate for that grading permit. The county's position, as expressed by Mr. Vandervis, was, well, 2.27, 2.6, if we have to step in and remediate it, it's enough at 2.27. And our position was, well, if you're just going to finger up in the air and say, yeah, that sounds about right, why do you bother having a worksheet? I mean, why don't you just sit there and have a chat about it and figure out the number? And I think at this point, I'm going to, speak on behalf of Stephanie. I think Stephanie started to appreciate at this point why the community has these concerns.
I appreciate it all along, I'm sure you did.
But I think this was just another hit from a lot of hits that keep on coming on this project. The other question that we asked was when they had last looked at Credit Suisse, because that letter of credit in July last year was issued by Credit Suisse, that bank had significant issues during the course of last end of 2022, early 2023, and they had hundreds of billions of dollars of withdrawals and were bought for $3 billion by United Bank of Switzerland. So we had said, we think you should go and validate the letter of credit. And, we get this letter back that says, we regularly validate the banks to determine their institutional ratings so that they meet our minimum criteria. What the actual disclosures show is that the last time the county went and validated Credit Suisse as a bank was in March of 2022, 15 months before he wrote us this letter. And while I have respect for Mr. Vanders, he got his little folder out about his whole policy on checking, validating these things. And Anish, I think, recognized the challenge. That, here's a bank that we really don't know right now whether the money is still in the account underpins the letter of credit. When you have this sort of fire sale and you take another bank and integrate any business and integrate it into another one, a lot of people suddenly find that they don't have a job anymore. And it's quite possible that the people who are working on this project don't have a job. You've got UBS staff coming in and wrapping their arms around stuff, not realizing that one of those withdrawals that happened in late 2022, early 2023 was the account that underpins the letter of credit. And I think the county understood that it was appropriate to go back and revalidate the letter of credit. The other point that was made, and I've left this one until last on purpose because I think the council needs to have a chat about this, is that what we were told is that while the grading permit has been issued, the permits to install the water infrastructure, the road infrastructure, and the storm drain infrastructure, which are covered by the original multiple agreement from 2002, won't be issued. We were told that Sycand Engineering and the developer have been trying to work to get some replacement performance bonds in place, which are more reflective of the current rates for labour and materials and performance for what this infrastructure in place would cost today. Mr. Vandervis expressed that he's actually the guy in Public Works who would issue and approve those permits, and therefore, until such time as those new bonds are in place, there would be no issuance of permits for any of the water infrastructure, road or other infrastructure on the project site. Now, I actually think that that's good. But given the history of being told one thing and finding out something else is happening, I think it would be appropriate for us as a council to discuss whether we just write a letter seeking confirmation of that from Stephanie and Anish and Mr. Vanders from the county. So that we basically just say, hey, look in that letter, we understand from that meeting that this is the situation. Could you please confirm that our understanding is correct? Yes or no, that no permits will be issued for water, roads, and this until these new bonds are in place. And I'd like to just throw that out to the council right now. It's the last thing I think I'm going to discuss about this.
I agree.
I agree too.
So the motion would be that we just write a letter two county representatives that we met with, seeking confirmation of our understanding of what was expressed to us about current bonds in 2002 and the need for a replacement set of bonds that are appropriately valued at 2023 rates before any of those permits would be issued.
I'll make a motion. Write the letter.
So we have a motion from.
I'll second it.
Okay, I'm second. Brandon, do you fill up the writing that letter?
I'm just wondering if it's necessary because we're gonna meet again.
That's what I thought. You know, that's, they were going to get answers.
Right, they were.
Yes.
If you decide to write a letter, what I would say was, I would add to that component of the letter, the issues that we are going to meet again to talk about. In other words, you're tracking, you're like bonds, some of the other things I haven't to go back and like notes again.
Kind of a better summarize.
Our understanding of the issues that you are going to follow up on in the meeting later, along with the coverage.
Yeah, my concern, just to be completely open about it, is that somebody in the council for the county, they turn around and say, well, Mr. Vanderhurst didn't have the authority to make a statement like that, and therefore, even though he said it, it's not something that we can on. And I just want to make sure that there aren't any gotchas in what we're told.
Fair enough. He has the authority, but fair enough.
I understand who may have the authority, but I don't know whether they may be a legal counsel saying, well, actually, under this particular aspect of this law, you've done something that's detrimental to the developer's rights here. So I think we do need to clarify that is
It is an evolving conversational, exploratory process. So, I understand. I mean, there's a lot of, nuances to it. So,
yeah, I think if this was just like the first issue that we run up against with this, that it wouldn't be a concern, but there's been this continual deck of collapsing dominoes on this project where what we've expected to see hasn't quite been what's manifested itself. So,
well, I think the other thing we discussed too was, that the county's so big and you can piecemeal, you see it in development projects, right? You start with, works and you go to regional plan and you go to fire and health, it's maybe, and then all of it changes based on who's approving what, back to another department, but they're not necessarily prosecuting anything. So the one thing that we discussed was making sure that we're kind of approaching this holistically now with the whole county.
Yeah.
Okay. So
what are you proposing that's going to be in the letter?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, whoever.
Yeah, so I think the letter just needs to say thanks very much. It was a pleasure to meet. We discussed the wastewater entitlement. We understand the county's position is X. We also understand that the existing bonds appear to be insufficient for the development of the infrastructure on the first phase, and the county's position is that they're going to they're currently working with the developer and SciCant engineering to get these new bonds in place, and that no permits for that infrastructure will be approved and issued until those replacement bonds are in place. And we look forward to meeting with you again in July to discuss the feedback and the other issues we discussed in the meeting. I mean, I'm not going to bullet point everything that we discussed.
Okay, I was just looking for a motion because I need to put this in the form of a motion. What we are going to include in the letter.
Just to confirm the discussion topics and the council's understanding regarding the current situation of the existing and replacement bonds for phase one.
So, letter to county rep seeking confirmation of the discussion points and confirmation of existing and replacement.
Multiple agreement bonds with
multiple agreement bonds. Okay.
Okay.
And, Chris made that motion and Candy seconded?
No,
Candy made the
Candy
motion.
made the
I, Candy made the motion.
and Catherine second.
And we have a question. I don't know if you have discussion after the second is, I just want to point out.
We're in the discussion, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. This bond issue is actually really important because the bonds themselves, even if it's a good company, are very tenuous. So, for example, in the middle of Acton in 2008, SunCal started to develop a 120 lot subdivision. You know what, Jackie, can you go up? Because I'm not going to be able to pick you up on the microphone.
Can you do that?
So, sorry.
We want to hear this.
I just was going to say the issue of bonds is really critical. And even when you have a reliable, it doesn't necessarily mean you're covered. For example, in 2008, in the heart of Acton, there was a 125 lot subdivision that was in exactly the same situation as phase one is with RTG. And the company started doing grading, putting in culverts, changing flow patterns, destroying basically the heart of Acton right there along Crown Valley Road. And then the housing market, crashed. And the SunCal developers, they left. And the bond company was supposed to cover them to go put everything back the way it was, so that, but the bond company went belly up overnight. So Acton is still scarred. I mean, a lot of vegetation's grown in, thank goodness, but it caused a lot of drainage problems downstream. Right. So, and that was a reputable bond company that they had bonds with. So even when you have, it's not Credit Suisse, say it's Chase or whoever's issuing bonds, they could still just go belly up. And that's happened here in Acton, not here, but it maybe here, I don't know, but in Acton definitely. So it's a real thing. So
That was one of the causes for that flood that you had in Acton a few years ago?
In 2017, I don't think that was just a microburst.
Oh, okay.
Although that flood was still only I don't even think it was a 25-year flood event. So
yeah, it was unbelievable.
But that was like just a pretty bad one. But much worse ones are supposed to be, they're supposed to design for much worse ones. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor right over. Motion has been seconded. We discussed it. We pretty much know what it's going to go into this letter. So all those in favor of sending this letter, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Great. Have a letter from that. Perfect. Okay. Next item, President's report, General.
So let's go to Mercy.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Okay.
And can you come up? And the only reason we're doing, I'll never get the
That's
recording, and you'll never pick up your voice from back there. So, thank you.
I am the person who heads up the community group for this project, or the thing for this project. I don't have much to report right now. We're in a holding pattern waiting for all the things that you guys are doing, with this meeting with the county, and our attorney is working right now on dealing with what was going on with the water board issues. And so, that continues. He sent off a letter to put into evidence, into public record, with some concerns that we had. And so all of that is just, like I said, holding pattern where we're waiting for the next shoe to fall. I mentioned last time we were on a Zoom meeting regarding the Facebook group. I'm still having some issues. Somebody got hacked who's a member of our group, I guess, and I'm getting multiple requests for membership in our group, and we're a very closed private group. And they are off-the-wall, bizarre requests from what looks like fake profiles. So once again, if I've had a couple of requests that seem like they could be legit, but I'm not letting anyone into the group unless they're sponsored by someone or invited by someone I need some sort of input from somebody who's already in the group. So for those of you who are listening, if you are waiting for my response, please get somebody, contact me, adneighbors 2021 at gmail.com if you want to just email me, or get somebody that you know who's already in the group to send a message through the group.
Right.
That's pretty much it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the report.
The other thing, Don, I wanted to bring up was, at the meeting that we had with the county, they acknowledged the problems with the grading.
Right.
And they have indicated that they will be doing more inspections than they've ever done.
We're out there, they're out there regularly,
Yeah.
you know, and the developers aware of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good sign that now the developer knows everybody's watching.
Yeah.
Because that just slipped through.
Well, for those of you that don't know, I mean, they were basically depositing earth and building reservoirs on property that wasn't part of this approved tract. So we brought it to their attention, and like Chris brought it up. We don't think we should have to be the police on it, but someone's got to be. So once we informed the county took it at hand to send the people out there to make sure that they were policing it properly, to where they had the proper permits, and I guess they have a timeline as to when they're supposed to move the 1.5 million yards of dirt off of this parcel that isn't part of the development. So I think, you know, it's we're doing our due diligence as neighbors, making certain that whatever is been moved, that they're working within those guidelines. And then the county is backing it up as far as from what we hear, where they're actually doing the inspections. So.
Right, that additional monitoring will be.
Yeah, so, and the other thing we found out was that the bond, like Jackie says, the money is supposed to be not so much to finish the grading plan, it's to put it back the way it was. And that's the concern we have.
Yeah.
What if this never, I looked everything up, and then they're gone, well, now what? You know, it's like acting stuck with that. So it is a big issue, whereas when you get into roads, curb and gutters, street lights, the utilities, water, whatever, those bonds are completion bonds, where when someone, if they do it halfway, there's enough money set aside there for someone else to step in and finish that project according to what the county estimates the cost to be. So definitely the bonds are a big issue, and I think that's what we're going to express on this level. Okay? I think that's enough talking about it. Yeah.
One final thing.
Yeah.
The water line, the 21-inch main that was installed, has now been chlorinated and filled to the boundary of the property.
Okay.
So I got a picture earlier this week. Half the water was actually going into the pond, and the other half of the water coming out of the water line was going down the slope towards the 14. There was the weirdest thing that they got on top of this hydrant to find. It looked like they just wrapped it on a shopping bag or something.
That's what always concerned me is who knows that water is actually AVEC water and not water from their own wells that they have in the property. So I don't know.
Well, yeah.
So
it's coming out of the 20-inch main, whatever the
nature looks like.
Yeah.
So, okay. All right. Good enough. Next up, we have the President's Report. General portion is 2023 Iowa City Town Council meeting format. This is our first attempt at a hybrid meeting. I think so far it's going pretty good.
I think so. What does everybody that's listening virtually think?
Virtual people? Just, they're all media. Well, that's all left. So, okay, good. All right. Oh, we got another question. Okay. Do you have a question, Cindy, or is that the way of saying everything's fantastic?
I do have just a response about the hybrid meeting. The audience side has not been picked up as well on the microphones as it probably could have. And then with the question that came up in the chat, it's kind of hard to know who's actually speaking. So we'll work on that along the way. I don't know if there's a way to place the microphone a little bit differently on the audience side, but I think that would be helpful.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna try to keep the audience not really talking from the audience area to go up to the podium.
How did it sound when Jackie was up at the podium? Did you hear her loud and clear then?
Yes, I believe we could hear it when they were at the podium.
Perfect. Okay, so that's reasonable.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so to be more inclusive in meeting and with meeting participation, the council will continue with virtual meetings and have an in-person meeting once every quarter. Those in-person meetings will be March, June, September, and December. And the location will be the Adtc Women's Club, which is here. Based on public participation and in-person meetings, we may revisit and amend the schedule and formula. So, formal approval of actions taken at the April and May virtual meetings.
Before we move on to the last subject,
yeah.
I just want to recognise the work that Mary did.
Oh.
It's one thing to come along with a check for a few $1,000s, but it's a whole other thing to turn that check into something that works as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Yes.
Thank you, Mary.
Definitely. Thank you.
That work is appreciated.
Yeah, and it works. And everybody's happy out there. We don't have a whole lot of hands waving. That's good. That's bad. So, basically, with a formal approval of action taken at our previous meetings, I think do we need to do these individually or do them? I think we'll do them all at once.
That's fine by me.
Okay.
I'll make a motion kind of as a consent
Okay.
to approve all of the motions that we did previously, which was send a letter to Supervisor Barger regarding construction activity outside the recorded maps.
Right.
Also to Supervisor Barger seeking clarification and validity of bonds. And then to send a comment letter to the revised climate action plan. I'm going to add if time permits.
If time permits, of course. Yeah.
I did not get that.
Yeah,
So based on that, I make a motion to approve all of those motions.
Okay. And do we hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second. Any more discussion?
Is that Candy?
No, it's
No,
Kathy.
that's Kathy. You got two of them next to each other. You need to separate warrior. So, anyway, you got a motion on the floor, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Good to know.
Thank you.